Welcome, folks, to this edition of the 700 Club. It goes back and forth in Washington. You get a little sick of it. You know, I wish some of our friends in Arizona would remind their senior senator that he is a Republican and that he's not an independent, and that shooting at his president, who's a Republican, is not a wise course to take. But nevertheless, we find somebody saying, well, I really want to set up hearings to embarrass my president. It's back and forth, you know, who did what, who caught somebody doing something or other. But that wasn't the big story. The big story today was that there was a huge snowstorm. Well, it never happened as bad as they said it was going to happen. They've downgraded the number of inches in New York. You know, Terry, they said that for every inch of snow in New York, it costs $2 million to get rid of. So if they have 10 inches, that's $20 million.
Well, there's no place to put it, you know?
Exactly. It piles up and they don't know what to do with it. But
exactly.
It's expensive, but it's not near as bad in the city. Outside, maybe still, in New Orleans still, but they're talking about this gigantic, dangerous snowstorm. And the governor of Massachusetts, well, you got the story about that.
They're warning in that state, because I think New York's not getting it, but Massachusetts is getting it. The governor's saying, quote, it's going to snow hard and fast for a long period of time. Already the storm's created terrible problems for travelers, and Heather Sells has the story.
The storm is hitting hard and fast today. Government officials in places like Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and New York are telling people stay off the roads.
We expect this storm overall to be in the range of 16 inches to 20 inches of snow.
New York also expects crazy winds with gusts up to 55 miles an hour. In many places like New York, Boston, and Philadelphia, the Weather Service is urging people to shelter in place. In other words, stay at home or wherever it's safe. In Massachusetts and Maryland, forecasters expect 12 to 18 inches. Maryland has declared a state of emergency. In Pennsylvania, the governor has called on 700 National Guard members and 2,000 snowplows to help. Air travelers are also feeling the storm. The airlines have canceled more than 5,000 flights.
We were unable to do anything by way of rebooking our tickets online. The website simply would not respond to any clicks.
Schools across the Northeast are also shutting down in response to the forecast, and in Washington, federal workers have a 3-hour delay. In Chicago, officials are blaming snowy conditions for 2 highway crashes involving 34 cars. They closed express lanes for hours and injured 7.
I saw the smash and I stopped the car and I saw from back they were coming, all the cars that are coming and pile up and bum, bum, bum.
Everybody's done an amazing job, but really, when we thought about it, none of us were all going too fast.
It was just 1 week ago that temperatures climbed up into the 60s in many parts of the Northeast. And with spring officially beginning next week, there's hope that for this year, this storm will be the last. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Thanks, Heather. Well, while the nation's capital is dealing with snow today, the White House and Congress are still working on their plan to repeal and replace Obamacare. Wendy Griffith has that.
That's right, Pat. Republicans are pushing back against a Congressional Budget Office estimate on their health care plan. The CBO says the bill would mean up to 24 million people would not have health insurance in the next decade. But Health and Human Services Secretary Tom Price calls that estimate just not believable. And critics point out that CBO estimates have been wrong in the past. President Trump says Republicans need to act because Obamacare is failing.
Obamacare, all of a sudden, the last couple of weeks, is getting a false rep that maybe it's okay. It's not okay. It's a disaster. And people understand that. It's failed. And it's imploding. And if we let it go for another year, it'll totally implode. The House plan will expand choice, lower costs, and ensure health care access for all.
The president also met with people who talked about Obamacare's skyrocketing premiums.
We can't afford our equipment if we're paying these rates year after year after year. Our food source is in jeopardy because of this health care law.
Despite differences among Republicans and Democrats, Republicans hope to have a health care bill on the president's desk by the end of April. President Trump is also moving to cut government waste and reorganize the executive branch.
We will be signing a new executive order to begin the process of reorganizing the executive branch to make it less wasteful and more productive.
The president is looking to get rid of unnecessary government agencies and programs, and he's asked the heads of agencies to submit their own plans for cutting out waste. The president will need support from Congress to carry out any reorganization plan. Pat, do you think he'll get that support?
Yeah, I think so. The people are sick of what's happening, but I think one of the things he's going to cut is our support of the United Nations. I think we pick up, I don't know, maybe almost a quarter of their budget. And I think that organization needs, you talk about something that needs an overhaul, that's it. They don't need to be doing all this nonsense, this anti-Israel rhetoric on our dollar. So it's time to cut them back, way, way back, and stop that waste. But anyhow, there's some interesting elections over in Europe. Wendy.
There sure is, Pat. The Dutch go to the polls Wednesday to elect a new prime minister. And if Geert Wilders wins, it will send shockwaves across Europe, mainly because of his position against Islamic immigration from some countries and, of course, his support for leaving the European Union. Dale Hurd has our story.
Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte and challenger Geert Wilders met Monday night in their only nationally televised face-to-face debate ahead of Wednesday's vote, with Wilders calling Rutte untrustworthy and Rutte saying a Wilders government would plunge the Netherlands into chaos. In the wake of Brexit, Britain's vote to leave the European Union, and Donald Trump's victory in the United States, the Dutch election is being seen as a key indicator of the future of nationalism in Europe. In his political career, Geert Wilders has gone from the fringe into the lead, and his surprising popularity is an indication that a growing number of Dutch voters are unhappy. Wilders' Party for Freedom has been sliding in the polls in the days before the election and trails Rutte. The Netherlands has not had Germany's problems with migrants or the economic problems of France. So why has Wilders become so popular?
I would say this is about globalization.
Dutch journalist Chris Alberts.
The question is, do people really want more refugees here? Do people want more globalization? What Geert Wilders, of course, is saying is, we should make our own decisions, period.
The ideas that Mr. Wilders voices are the concerns and ideas of many people in Holland and also of mine, and that's why we support him.
Wilders has vowed to take the Netherlands out of the European Union and to close its borders to Muslim migrants from Africa and the Middle East. Rutte is warning that an exit, the Netherlands leaving the European Union, would be a mistake. If Wilders does win, it will be a challenge to find other parties to join him in forming a new coalition government. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Pat, what do you think? It's going to be interesting.
It is going to be, but I think people are sick. The European Union is failing. It just isn't supplying what it needs to. But there's a scenario behind the scenes where there seems to be a fight with Turkey, and the Turks are really blasting the Netherlands and calling them fascists and so forth. So Erdogan of Turkey is setting up some kind of a dictatorship, and I don't know exactly why they're having that contretemps, as they say, but they're having it. Hey, by the way, you know, you used to talk about tea in China. You used to think, hey, that's where you get the tea, and one of the reasons that there was that Boxer Rebellion, if you look way back in China, the British were drinking a lot of Chinese tea, and they had a trade imbalance. And so they said, well, what can we sell the Chinese that will balance our trade? And so they said, well, the thing we can get from India is called opium. And so they started taking opium and selling it to the Chinese. And the Chinese government, after a while, said, look, we don't want this opium. And the British said, we're going to force you to take our opium so you can balance the trade. And out of that came this awful Boxer Rebellion. It was a hideous scene, and certainly a chapter the Brits don't want to talk about too much anymore. Well, Wendy, we've got a new chapter on the drinking habits of the Chinese.
The Chinese are always surprising us. Of course, you just mentioned that expression, all the tea in China. Well, that's because tea has a long history there. But lately, more and more Chinese people are turning to a different drink, coffee. And now it looks like coffee is about to take that nation by storm. Gary Lane has the story.
Tea is steeped in the culture of many Asian countries, especially like China. For more than 5,000 years, generation after generation, tea has been an important part of Chinese tradition. Today in big cities such as Beijing and Shanghai, coffee shops can now be seen on nearly every major street corner. These shops are not just selling drinks. For many Chinese millennials, socializing on coffee shop couches is a new way to enjoy life.
I normally stay at the coffee shop. While I drink coffee, I enjoy the quietness here. It's a good way to take a break from all the noises. I can read my book without interruption.
Many young Chinese people drink coffee socially when meeting with friends. In fact, many foreign coffee companies have already figured out creative ways to attract more Chinese consumers. The shops are uniquely designed, combining coffee with traditional Chinese cultural decor. In 2010, Starbucks dominated Chinese coffee sales with a 66% market share. According to one report, people in China drank roughly 45,000 tons of coffee in 2006. Some analysts predict the number could reach 300,000 tons annually by 2020. Coffee is still a relatively new beverage of choice for China's tea-drinking population. Sweet, milky coffee drinks like mocha and lattes are the most popular. Local coffee shop owners say, while young people enjoy the aroma and flavor of coffee, they also know it has health benefits.
Younger coffee drinkers today know a lot more about coffee. It looks like Chinese medicines are facing challenges from the Western drinks.
Older Chinese and herbal medicine practitioners find the new coffee trend hard to accept.
Chinese acupuncture and tea have a longer history than coffee. You will never see a Chinese hospital using coffee to cure their patients. Those traditions are irreplaceable. Coffee is just a new drink. Even though we have many coffee shops, coffee is still foreign to us today. Our tea tradition is an important value of the Chinese people. Foreign culture will never understand this important concept.
Most of the coffee consumed in China comes from South and Central American countries. However, this may change. Some coffee producers in southern China will soon be growing their own high-quality beans. Still to be seen is if coffee-drinking millennials will transform this deep-rooted tea-drinking country into one of the world's largest coffee-consuming nations. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Might be another reason to visit China, Pat.
Well, I guess so, except I'm drinking their tea. Thanks a lot. I like jasmine tea. I think their tea is marvelous. I think it has more health benefits than coffee, but I got off coffee years and years and years ago. Coffee's addictive, and I was really hooked.
And so am I. Yeah. I'll drink mine and yours.
All right, well, the idea of spending $5 for one cup of coffee at Starbucks just chills me. One little cup of, a little tea bag, I don't know what they cost, but you can get them a whole lot cheaper.
Yeah, I guess so.
You get coffee?
Well, I drink tea here. I get my one shot of green tea.
Well, this is green tea from China. I guess China or India or whatever.
Somewhere good.